Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to get set up with OR, introduce you to the OR interface, and just give you a quick rundown of how OR Studio works. Now if you're taking this as part of my course, the graduate course at Maynooth, you'll have access to the Moodle page, and the first thing you need to do is to download your files from the data and the OR scripts folder, which is located here. If you're working outside of the course, or if you're coming back to this video later on, one of the first things I always establish is good workflow and good practice with saving your files, keeping and saving them in the same location. The first thing you need to do if you're starting this course is to identify a folder in one of your drives. So if you're on Windows, usually this would be possibly in your documents, which you'll find under this PC. Again, if you're in Windows, I use my iCloud drive to save things. You might want to use your OneDrive. Wherever that is, doesn't really matter. All you need to do is to create a folder where you will save all of your data sets, your OR scripts, and where you will direct OR to save things that you produce, such as graphs. So for the purposes of this course, we've called this folder SO648_2026. So you just need to create a folder as well somewhere with that name. And into that folder, you will save the materials for the course, which will be added to each couple of weeks as we go. These are available in here. So what I've done to get myself started, before we start up or do anything with, is to download and save each of these files. You can do that in a number of ways. You can download the entire folder. Easier way to do it probably is to right click and go to Save Link As, and that will prompt you to save it. Somewhere you can scroll over and identify your folder. And I've already got it saved here, so I'm not going to do it again. Save your file to that folder you created, your SO648_2026. You also want to make sure that you've got the .or file, which is your OR script. This will include the code that you need to do the exercises every week. And as you can see, I've saved my .or file in here as well, and it's in this folder called SO648_2026. If you're starting off for the first time, you'll want to download Base OR and OR Studio. So OR Studio is an interface that sits on top of Base OR and makes it easier for us to work. It allows us to keep track of things like our data set. It's going to keep a history of everything that we do, and the objects that we create in OR, which I'll explain later on in the course, will be saved in our environment, and our outputs, such as our plots, will also be visible in a window as well. So by following these two links, or just going onto Google and searching for download OR Studio, you can start by installing OR. If you're on Mac, you want to click the link for Mac, and if you're on Windows, you click the link for Windows, and follow this till you get to the subdirectory for Base. Or you've got this link over here as well. If you want to install OR for the first time, it'll just take you to here. So you'll see the link for the latest version here. At the time of making this, it's version 4.5.2 to be precise. And when you click on that, it'll just prompt you to a download. Once that's downloaded, you can run the file, accept the default options, that's totally fine, and install it. I'm not going to run it because it's already installed. When that's done, then you can follow the next link to OR Studio. Again, if you don't have access to the Moodle page, just use a search engine to find OR Studio. And the link that you'll need if you're working in the Windows environment is down here, which is Download OR Studio. Now, there's a couple of different versions. If you're looking for the version for Mac, it's down here. You got to scroll down a little bit past the header for the page. Go down here, you'll find a version for Mac. So all you need to do to install it then is to click on the relevant download, accept all the defaults, and let that run its course. And then when it's installed, find the program and launch it, and you'll be brought to a window that looks like this. So when you start OR Studio for the first time, you're not going to see a whole lot. But for the purposes of this course, and again, you might be working with your own OR scripts, or you might want to start your own OR script if you just want to start typing in code. You can go to File, Open, navigate to where you have saved. Again, in your folder, this will be your SO648_2026, and open up your OR script. If you wanted to start a new one, let's say you're starting a project, you want to write your own code, then you can simply go up here to start a new script. It'll appear here in the upper tab, or you can go to File, New File. You can start an R script, and there's loads of other options here as well. This is one we'll come back to in a while, which is R Markdown. So once you've got your file open, your .r file, .r is the format in which R saves these R scripts. And this is how I issue most of the class materials for this module, is in the form of written commands given in a .r file that is updated every couple of weeks. So there's approximately 3 to 4 of these will be issued throughout the course of the module. Now, one of the first things that we do when you first install R, one of the nice things about R is its flexibility. It allows us to load in only the custom packages that we need. There's a couple that we will use, and these are packages that contain custom commands, specific modules for producing graphics, or just packages that will streamline certain things that we do and make it a little bit easier and a bit more intuitive. For example, making selections within our data, or issuing instructions to R for what cases to select from our data set, things like that. And the way this works is you only need to run the install part of this once. So if I want to install readr, tidyverse, and ggplot2, these are the first couple of packages that we'll use. You can highlight the 3 lines of code together, that's line 11, 12, 13, go up here to run, or you can click the shortcut, which is Control-Enter. And once you do that, again, I'm not going to do it in my viewer because they're already installed, you'll see some text appear here in the console, and it might take a little while depending on what machine you're using, what your connection is like. Let that install run its course, and then those packages will be installed. Now, once the package is installed, we need to execute this command called library. Whenever we start a new session, even though we might have our packages installed, we're still going to need to call them into use when we start a new session. So I want to use readr, tidyverse, and ggplot in this session. So what I'm going to do is highlight those 3. You can do them individually. When we want to run a line of code, we highlight it, or we can click here in the margins, or we can drag our mouse down over it to select multiple lines. So when I select these multiple lines and I run this, R will start to load those packages in. Now I'm getting an error message here because I need to perform an update, but since you've just done your install, you probably won't see this. So don't worry too much about the error messages, or we'll just give you a summary if there's any sort of additional packages that it needs to run something else, which it calls a dependency. Sometimes a library depends on another package being present. It'll give you all those details down here in the error messages. Now, one of the most important things that you will need to do is to set a working directory. And what we're going to do for the duration of this course, and definitely what you want to do in your own practice, it's very good workflow, is to set a directory to tell R which folder you're working from on your computer so that we can call data from it. We can export data to it if we've made any changes to our data, and we can send any graphics or output, things like images, graphs, tables, stuff like that. We can send that to the same folder. So I want to set a working directory, and you should do the same, which is this folder that we created called SO648_2026. Now, the way to get this file path, what you want to do is, in the version of the file that I've given you, it comes with a file path that points to a folder on my computer. But what you want to do is replace this part of the code with your file path. How do you do this? Well, you simply go to your folder, and if you're doing this on Mac, you just need to go through Files, and you'll see here at the very top, we have we can access our file path in this little viewer bar. So my folder is located in C users, eFlaherty, in my iCloud drive, in a subfolder called teaching, and within that folder there's a folder called SO648_2026. Now I can do this in 2 ways. I can right click on the most extreme file name here, and I can go to copy address, or copy address as text, or I can left click, highlight the text, and copy it by hitting Control-C, or just going to copy. So what you want to do then is to bring this over into your .r script, take out that file path and replace it with your own. Now, one of the things about OR, in Windows by default, it's going to use backslashes, or wants forward slashes. We can do this manually for now. There's a couple of fixes for this, but we're not going to be working too often. We're not going to be changing this file path too often because we want to just work within the same folder really for the majority of the course. So what you want to do is replace those backslashes with forward slashes. And then once you've done that, you want to highlight this piece of code and run it. And unless it's giving you an error, and if you get an error message below, it's probably something to do with maybe there's a space that's been left in there somewhere. One of the slashes might be pointing backwards, something like that. Just go back through it and check and make sure that you've got the right name. Now, when I run this next line of code on line 28, you'll see this dir command. Now, setwd, and you see this is a familiar structure with the code in OR. We'll have a word or a keyword over here, which is going to say, we want to do something. We want to set our working directory, setwd, and I want to set it to this path. dir is going to inspect the contents of that directory for us. And by running this, we can see down here in the console that we have, okay, there's three files in this folder. There's a folder called SO648 classes. That won't be in your one. That's just where I store all my class materials. I also have the data set that we're going to use later on, which is this CSV file, spreadsheet. And then it also has the file that we're working with now, week 1, SO648_2026.or. You can see this if we click back into the File Explorer. You can see there's the contents of my folder listed out. There is a fix for this where you don't need to edit the backslashes, and this is a shortcut which basically just uses the letter OR, and we open up 2 inverted commas and we open up some brackets. And let's say I wanted to just copy and paste the file path without doing all of those changes, without switching the backslashes and the forward slashes around. Then what I would do is I would go to setwd, and within this then I can paste my file path, close the brackets off, and OR is going to recognize whatever is in there as a string, and it'll just disregard the orientation of those slashes. This is a handy shortcut to keep in mind for later on if that's something that you want to do. If you're going to be working a lot in OR, it's a good thing maybe to include this at the start of your file. And then if we want to see where we're working from, we can issue the command getwd, and OR will tell us down here in the console where it's pointed to. So it's working from C users, iCloud Teaching, SO648, that's great. So we know that we're working from the right path. But for now, all you need to do to get yourself started is to save all those files and point OR to your folder, and make sure that you call it SO648_2026, because in the code that I give you in future, I'm going to use this folder name. And I'm going to tell you in the instructions to point towards a folder with this name. So it's very important that you have all the course materials in this folder, exactly as I have them saved here. So in the next video, we'll look at the remainder of this file, which is going to be about how to read in data sets and how to open data.